Just made my day. Thanks, Max. Welcome again, everybody. Welcome to those who are watching online, whether live or sometime in the digital future. We are glad you're with us either way. And Paul's epistle to the Romans is just one of those historical theological documents that has such prominence in the Christian tradition. It's one of the most practically used documents in the New Testament. Like a lot of, I know as UCC, right, we don't have a lot of catechisms or like doctrine and things like that, but a lot of people do, a lot of churches do, and a lot of that doctrine comes not quite from Jesus, but from Romans. And it's used quite a bit. And it's one of Paul, the Apostle Paul's scholarly consensus is that he actually did write this. It's one of his, they call it the undisputed letters, so they think that this really was the Apostle Paul writing to this cloister of these churches in mid-first century Rome, heart of the Roman Empire. And because of all of the just prominence that this letter has and holds within the Christian story and the Christian tradition, it comes with a lot of baggage, like most of Paul does, but it comes with a lot of baggage. As great as it may be, I know that you have heard verses from this letter to condemn people, to shame people, to insist that there's only one right way to believe, one right way to pray, one way to heaven, one way to salvation, right? How many of you heard of the Roman road? Okay, a few of you have. So this is like an evangelism technique that somebody came up with. It's like 5 or 6 consecutive verses in the letter of Romans, and people just have it on lock, and they'll use those verses to try and like convert people, basically. I remember growing up in the Baptist church, they had those little pamphlets on the back of the pews, and I remember very vividly seeing the Roman road laid out. And so that's the picture that I get. So it comes with a lot of baggage. There's that. But then there's also the baggage of just the language that it uses. It's become foreign to a lot of us, really. It uses words like intercession, right? And the Spirit intercedes, and predestination, and later in the letter that's, submit to the governing authority. It's just all this baggage that seems to be attached to it. It can sound really cringy, kind of. It can sound outdated. It can just be confusing. So before we begin this morning, I would like to make a confession to you. And that is, especially when Christians start talking about prayer, I tend to get a little nervous. I get nervous these days. Not because I don't believe in prayer, I absolutely do. But I've just heard prayer described and formulated in a lot of ways that just don't match my own experience, and I have a feeling that you feel the same way in a lot of different ways. We just had the Pride Parade last weekend. It was a wonderful experience, and so we all got done decorating our truck and making the float out of it. So I took a minute, went around the corner to the Chevron station just to get a sparkling water, and I had to use the restroom. So asked the lady, said, do y'all have like a restroom that I could use real quick? And she just said, she looked disgusted. And she was like, she's like, you're like the 5th person that's asked me. She's like, every year this parade comes and they trash the bathroom. I have to clean it 5 or 6 times. And she says, but because you asked nicely and I like you, I'm going to let you use the rest. So she leads me around the corner. She unlocks it. And I don't know if she saw like just, the Pilgrim Church on my shirt or whatever, but she says, see, knock and the door will be open to you, honey. I couldn't, she was just so excited about it. So I just kind of laughed and said thank you or whatever. And that's the picture that a lot of us have of prayer, right? Ask nicely. It's like this, spiritual customer service hotline. Just ask nicely, say the right words in the right way. Say this thing and believe hard enough. Maybe God will answer. maybe God won't. But if God doesn't answer, it's all your fault. It's because you didn't pray hard enough, right? You did not say the right words. You didn't have enough faith. You didn't do this or that. You didn't do it correctly. God just had other plans, maybe, I don't know about you. That's just never been a satisfying description of prayer for me. And I suspect that many of us have quietly carried, or maybe vocally carried, that discomfort for quite some time. So when Paul begins this passage today saying, we do not know how to pray as we ought, for some reason, this time around, reading that verse, I've read it I don't know how many times, for some reason that particular phrase stuck out to me. We don't know how to pray as we ought. Paul the Apostle, the first Christian theologian, says, when it comes to prayer, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to pray. And he includes himself in that. So that tells me that prayer is not just for spiritual experts. It's not for this formula. It's not for that. It begins when language begins to fail, when we don't have the words. How do you pray when someone you know is getting ready to die and pass on? What words are there to honestly give justice to that situation? How do you pray after another shooting, after another attack, after another declaration of war? How do you pray after another act of hatred? How do you pray when the diagnosis arrives, when the relationship is threatened? How do you pray when you're up at 3 a.m. with crippling anxiety, can't breathe? What words are there for that experience? What words are sufficient? There aren't any words. Paul knows that. He says, with the Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. That's a beautiful image. Notice he doesn't say the Spirit replaces our words. The Spirit doesn't replace our weakness. The Spirit doesn't erase our groaning. The Spirit joins in it. Creation groans. Humanity groans. And now even, yes, God groans. It's a remarkable claim. Many of us here believe many different things about God, if at all. Some of us aren't even sure, right? But when it's communicated that the deepest reality of the universe, no matter how you describe God, how you name God, the deepest reality of the universe, or spirit, the deepest reality is not detached from suffering. It's not detached from suffering. As a matter of fact, love enters into that suffering. Love breathes with it. Love refuses to abandon it. Prayer, then, is not trying to convince some distant, far-off God to care or to show up. Prayer is more than that. It's discovering that God has already entered the places where we're groaning and aching the most. It's less about speaking and more about becoming available, a presence, a tuning. Sometimes we think of prayer as information, and maybe you've heard this before, like people will pray as though we're updating God on what is happening, as if God needs that, right? But it's so much more than just that, or some, formula. It's more than that. Maybe it's just like tuning an instrument. Prayer is tuning an instrument. The world is already humming and singing the music of God, the music of the Spirit. Our job is to simply join in, to hear it, to hear that music, and to join in, to resonate with it, to be carried by it and moved by it. Thomas Merton once said that prayer is not so much getting God to hear us as us learning to hear God. Sometimes prayer looks like that. Sometimes prayer looks like silence or sounds like silence. Sometimes prayer looks like tears. Sometimes prayer looks like showing up to a protest. Sometimes prayer looks like donating rice and coffee outside of my office. Sometimes prayer looks like attending a meeting with a certain senator tomorrow night at 6:30 at St. Francis of Assisi Church to defend and stand up in solidarity for our migrant siblings. Sometimes it's sitting beside somebody who has none of the answers, and you don't need the answers, you just need their presence. Sometimes it's simply breathing deeply enough, knowing that we're alive and that we're not alone. Some of you are like, dang, I might be praying more than I thought I was, right? And I hope you're right. I hope that's the case, because that's exactly what I'm trying to say. For Paul, in this verse, prayer has never become an escape from the world, an escape from our suffering. It sends us right back into it, head on. That rhythm of this verse, this chapter, creation is groaning, humanity is groaning, the Spirit is groaning, everything is groaning, everything is trying to move towards healing and wholeness. It doesn't remove us from that movement, it draws us deeper into that movement. Which means that prayer and justice belong together. As we groan for a better life for ourselves and our friends and family and our neighbors, as we groan for a better life, as we groan for a better world to inhabit. Madison always says, during the services, we're an active and activist church. I love it when he says that, because prayer keeps activists like us from becoming consumed by despair. But our activism, our action, our faith in the world keeps prayer from becoming an excuse for doing nothing. Without prayer, justice can very easily become anger and bitterness. And without justice, prayer can easily become just mere sentimentality. Thoughts and prayers, right? It's easy to slip into that. But the Spirit holds both of those together. And then comes one of the most misunderstood, verses, maybe in the New Testament. We know that all things work together for the good. Many of us have heard that at funerals or recited after, some natural disaster or some, whatever event that's happening in the world. And some of us hear that verse and we automatically think, everything happens for a reason. That's what Paul's saying. And I don't think that's quite what's going on. I don't think that's what he's saying. Paul never says that suffering is good. He never says that injustice is God's plan. He never says cancer is a blessing. He never says that violence or oppression, that these are good things. He knows too much about suffering to romanticize it that way. This is a guy who has seen grief. This is a guy that has been beaten and imprisoned and shamed. He knows grief firsthand. He knows suffering. His claim is not that everything is good. His claim is that love refuses to let evil have the last word. That even in the darkest places, God is there God is still creating. God is still seeking. God is still speaking. God is still healing, resurrecting, at work. Not because suffering is holy, but because love is relentless. And that brings us to this really magnificent ending to this chapter. He starts naming all these things that people fear in the Roman world. Neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come. Neither height, nor depth, nor anything in all creation. It's almost like he's saying, hey, name whatever keeps you up at night, whatever that is, whatever power feels overwhelming, whatever empire feels like it's never ending, whatever diagnosis, whatever grief, whatever fear, whatever is happening, name it. None of it gets the final word. None of it gets the final word. What gets the final word is love. The love that we bring, the love that we have and within us. That gets the final word. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Not because life is easy or is going to get easier, but because God's love is already deeper than anything that life can throw at us. God is within us. We are living within God. This isn't like an airtight argument. This is Paul kind of just bearing witness, saying, listen, I've seen enough of this to know. I know that suffering is real, but I also know there is a love that is more deep and more real than that can ever be. A love that doesn't erase our wounds. A love that inhabits our wounds. A love that doesn't flee or pull us out from history, but accompanies us directly through it. A love that keeps whispering, hey, keep going, keep loving, keep forgiving, keep marching, keep feeding, keep welcoming, keep hoping, keep praying. I think that's exactly what Paul says. He says at another place, pray without ceasing. It always baffled me, but I think this is exactly what he's talking about. When the words have given out, keep praying. You don't have to ask or beg for God to come closer. Prayer is much more than words. It's all about awakening to this ridiculous possibility that maybe, just maybe, God has never been absent. God is within us, God is around us, and we are living and moving and breathing within that Spirit. Beneath every sigh, every act of compassion, every movement towards justice, every hand that we extend out to one another, the Spirit's been praying all along. And maybe our calling is simply to just join into that prayer and join into that song. Amen.